All right, let's get to Konnan. Did you watch SmackDown?
Yes.
All right, so Jimmy Uso entered the building behind Kayla Braxton, and she asked him about Jey Uso's status with the Bloodline. And Jimmy said he's tried unsuccessfully to reach his brother, but he left him a message that he could meet him in the middle of the ring and say whatever he needs to get off his chest. So then we go to a six-man, and it's our far-right Nazi faction Imperium, okay, against Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and our boy Madcap Moss. Now, they were discussing, the announcers were talking about Madcap Moss, how he kind of blamed the fans on his loss last week. Did you hear that, Konnan?
Yep.
Okay, so I think they're going to start maybe turning this guy heel. But basically, this the Imperium guys went over. Moss got pinned 10 minutes and 50 seconds. And afterwards, McIntyre was out there, and he was in the aisle. And he was like staring at Gunther. Then the Viking Raiders came in, and they started attacking him. Big brawl. Sheamus came out, and they ran off the heels, and all the babyfaces stood tall at the end of the match. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one of the what I always call kind of a match, an angle disguised as a match. This was all about McIntyre coming out, and kind of like sowing the seeds for what championship is it? Intercontinental?
Yes.
Sowing the seeds for an Intercontinental Championship match with the Ring General. And I like the way they layered this. I like the way, the Viking Warriors came out, and they always look physical, and then Sheamus and McIntyre hooked up, and they took them out. I like that whole little thing right there. So, we're probably going to get some matches between these six, and obviously between Drew and Gunther is what I got out of this.
I saw a report. I don't understand. It was like some of the talent's pissed off in WWE because there's going to be less matches on WrestleMania this year. And I'm like, but they still have 2 nights, but there's guys that are apparently pissed off they're being left off the card. The reason I brought that up is because I was thinking they don't seem to have anything lined up for Kross for WrestleMania, do they?
Oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking about that, but I think it could. What wouldn't be a bad match if somehow Phantasma turned on Rey, and it's Phantasma and Phantasma and Kross, who used to be partners in AAA in Mexico, so they already have chemistry. But Phantasma and Kross versus Rey. Now that I think about it, another guy that was in AAA, and it could be Dominic and Kross versus Phantasma and Rey. I didn't mean.
So next is so backstage they go to Rey Mysterio's interview with Braxton, and Rey spoke about putting an end to carrying Kross until it was interrupted. And Escobar spoke about his respect for Mysterio and said he wanted to show the WWE universe how much respect he has for him. Dominic and Rey showed up, or Rhea Ripley, and Dom asked Escobar how much longer he was going to kiss up to Rey. Escobar said that if Dom doesn't have respect, he would teach it to him. And Dom said Dom said in prison, those that backed up what he said got dealt with. That was funny. And Escobar turned to Rey and laughed and then turned around to address Dom, but Ripley was standing in front of him. Good luck, Rey, Dom said before leaving with Ripley. And Escobar told Rey not to let it bother him. But Rey asked, how couldn't he let it bother him? So
that's my son. Yeah, I thought it was good. Good storyline progression. Everybody played their roles perfectly, short but sweet. Short and effective, too.
Right. Backstage, Jimmy Uso told Solo Sakoa that he knew Jey would be there for him when they defended the tag titles recently, but things felt different after what happened in Montreal. He said Jey might be spooked by the whole situation with Sami Zayn, but Paul Heyman entered the picture and suggested that Sakoa stay backstage while Jimmy handles his business with Jey. Jimmy agreed with Heyman. So our boy LA Knight.
This is what I like about their vignettes. They mean something. They're going somewhere. They're not just to tape something. You know what I'm saying?
Just to say, hey, you got a match.
Right.
We need an interview here for the match.
Right.
And that's all you get.
Right.
LA Knight makes his entrance, and he said everyone backstage talking about having a WrestleMania moment. He said he didn't come for WrestleMania moment. He came to make money. The way to do that is go to WrestleMania. He said you can't have an LA WrestleMania without LA Knight. He said he'd give WrestleMania an LA Knight moment. And then Kofi and Xavier Woods showed up. And Kingston said Knight has only been on the roster for 2.5 months and asked who he thought he was to demand anything. Knight said he didn't invite the Nerd Day, and Woods said that being nerds has made them a hell of a lot of money. Woods claimed that Knight's vest was fake leather and said spots in WrestleMania are earned. And he spoke about Kingston's long career. Knight said he creates circumstances and asked Kingston how the Kofi Mania thing worked out for him. Kingston and Woods entered the ring, and Kingston said it worked out pretty well since he became WWE champion. He also said he would shut Knight's ass up, and Woods called for a referee, and Cole said Knight and Kingston would have a match. And they had a match, and Kofi went over in 12 minutes, 50 seconds, but Knight got a lot of this is a good back and forth. I guess they wanted to see him work. like a match other than against Bray Wyatt and whatever that thing was, because this was it. He's a good worker. I don't know why anybody remember when Meltzer, when he was the Impact champion, and Meltzer was burying him, saying, "Well, you be the champion, you have to have good matches," and like they questioned his work. His work is fine.
Yeah.
What do you think, Konnan?
Well, the thing with him is that because I was with him there, and we actually had him on the show, and I told him this, and he actually agreed that I said, "How come all your matches aren't like the ones that you had with Alberto Del Rio? Probably because you were motivated, right?" And he said, "Yeah." So I think maybe it wasn't because when he was champion, he could have been having money issues with the office or some other issue where he just wasn't motivated, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember his matches back then, but I do remember when I was there, some of his matches are good and some of them weren't. And I guess it just depended on who he was wrestling and he was motivated to wrestle. Because sometimes, you're going up against a bad worker and you're like, this is going to suck. And you already kind of go in. Sometimes you're like, okay, this guy sucks, but we're going to make this work somehow. Just depends what type of mentality you go into the match with. And I'm sure that's happened to you.
I know that the scuttlebutt has kind of been that Austin isn't going to appear this year. He had that match with Owens last year, which was like great nostalgia and everything. But I think Knight could be a guy to go face to face with Austin and have that brawl and everything like that and great promos. That would be somebody for Steve to work with if he was coming back, which it doesn't sound like he is, but I don't know.
That's not a bad idea. Let me just say this. I thought the promo was very random, no build-up, just kind of a cold match, a random match for no reason. I don't understand why they had Kofi going over, and this is why I'm going to tell you this. Because New Day is super over, okay? You're trying to get LA Knight over. And, you need to push LA Knight right now, especially after, that Wyatt debacle, which wasn't his fault. Because Kingston can withstand a loss and still stay over. You want to, get LA Knight and keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. Then when it's time, LA Knight does the job for Kofi. You know what I'm saying? But I thought this was a little bit too early for the reasons I just gave.
Oh, deal. So next is Charlotte Flair comes out, and she calls out Rhea Ripley and said Dominic comes out. I said he wasn't going to let Flair run down mommy. Flair said it was adult time and told Dom to go get mommy. His mommy said she wasn't hiding behind her boyfriend. Dom said Charlotte sounded jealous. He said Ripley is the hottest. By the way, they're using Dominic a lot lately because he's got good heat.
Right. So
if you need babyface reaction, they're like interacting you with Dominic, which is good for this angle too. He said Ripley's the hottest thing in WWE and touted that she entered first and won the Royal Rumble. And Dom said Flair's a beautiful woman, but Ripley is strong. Dom said Ripley's so strong that she nearly broke his back. Flair said that she has a real Latino man at home and calls her mommy and has a much thicker accent. And Dom said he just wanted to chat since they have a lot in common. Dom said he and Flair are both generational superstars and know what it's like to be compared to their fathers and to be better than their fathers, even though the fans don't like to see it. Dom said he had the worst father, and Dom called Ray an afterthought of a father who messed him up. Dom said that when Ripley beats Charlotte at WrestleMania, she'll know that her own father was right in saying she just wasn't good enough. Flair said she loves her father and knows that he turns 74 tomorrow. And Charlotte said if Rick wasn't there, he'd kick Dom's butt. But since he's not here, Flair said between dropping the mic and got in Dom's face. Then Rhea comes out, and Dom smiled. And Dom held the ropes over for Ripley, who approached Flair and spoke to her off mic. And Dom pulled Ripley back and held the ropes over for her again. And Ripley and Dom dropped off the apron together while Flair held up her title belt. Ripley and Dom returned to the ring, and Ripley went face-to-face with Flair and said, "Bye-bye, Rhea." Ripley simulated biting, and then Flair simulated a kiss. And Ripley and Dom left the ring while Flair's entrance music played. I like that ending, where she's the bite and the kiss. What'd you think of that?
Okay, first of all, you work in a club where a lot of Cuban girls and Puerto Rican girls, I assume, right?
Right.
So that word that you're using, mommy, you don't hear that a lot in your club? Oye, mami, ven pa' acá. You don't hear mommy?
The girls call me Papi.
They call you Poppy.
Right.
But when next time you see a Cuban chick, just the word that I showed you, 2 words, the word that I showed you a long time ago and the word mommy. You go, coño, mommy, or split it in the middle and go, yeah, mommy. That means you're fine as hell.
Okay.
Please try that and tell me what happens.
I will try that.
Coño, mommy, or yeah.
Colin Barrett spoke about WWE.
Let me just say something about this. I don't buy or like Charlotte as a face. She seems forced and disingenuous at this point in her career. I think she's a natural heel, kind of like Rick. She looks a little bit facially like Cher. Remember Cher?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. And the only thing I didn't like about this is that, I know they're using Dom as the heat seeker, but they should have this girl come out, Rhea, because they've had issues before. I think Flair beat her last time.
Yeah, they wrestled on pay-per-view during the empty arena stuff. Remember? Yeah.
And even though Prison Dom right now is fire and he's good, I think it should have been, something between them two. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think it was as effective as it could have been if it would have just been B and her with Dominic on the outside.
You know what would be a great spot for Dom? What if he brought like some of the people that he met in prison and they accompanied him on the show? And one of them was like a girly boy, just
right.
Right? And the other was like a tough
bro. It's like the time. Listen to this.
All the stereotypes of prisoners, and like he had them all with him, and like is putting them over. Hey, these are my friends from prison. They're like,
the guy from the drunk
tank. Let me tell you something. This is a shoot. What I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
When I was in, I think it was Sacramento, right? Mm-hmm. Vampiro was there, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to come down with my." What are that gang from
the Guardian Angels?
Yeah, my Guardian Angel homies, Sacramento, faction, right? So I'm expecting, like these tattooed, burly guys. The guy showed up, and I'm not kidding. With one guy was like on a wheelchair. Another guy was disabled. It was like the most unintimidating crew of guys that you could imagine, you know? I was like, what is going on here? But, that would be funny if Prison Dom showed up with with a whole bunch,
of the stereotypical prisoners, right?
I think he should slick his hair back like mommy.
So they were telling the story about how.
And here's another thing I think's going to happen in WrestleMania, because you know how that crowd is. They're probably going to be with Ripley more than Charlotte.
They might.
Yeah, I agree.
But where is WrestleMania?
LA,
right? Englewood, LA. Yeah.
I don't know about that. That's a Flair.
I think so.
That's a Hollywood. I think there's gonna be Flair.
But there's a lot of the smart marks from around the world flying.
Yeah, but that's Flair. Like I think they're gonna. I think the Flair is.
You say they won't cheer Rhea. I say they will.
I think they will, because Charlotte represents the top pick, the long-term champion.
Dom is going to be out there with her, and he's going to be getting booed vociferously.
Yeah,
he will, not her.
He might not be out with her if he's wrestling, right? Yeah.
All right. So next is So they played this. They were telling this story about how Natalya has been cleared for this match.
Right.
So Shayna Baszler, which is a weak storyline for this, and Shayna wrestled Natalya and beat her. She was out there with Tegan Nox, and after the match, Nox climbed on the apron, is booted back to the floor by Baszler. And Rousey had Baszler hold Natalya in place instead of for a move, but Nox ran in and broke it up. Who the hell is this? Rousey asked on the floor, and Rousey yelled that Nox is done next week, kiddo. How interested are you in this?
Absolutely zero. This was very short. Didn't mean anything. Did nobody favors. Another angled disguised as a match. This was just to show this girl Nox. Why is she out there with Natalya? Who is she? Why is she out there? What's her gimmick? Okay, questions that may be answered in the future. And she took Rousey down, which is weird, because usually they don't let nobody do anything to Rousey. But anyways, right. I don't understand why Tegan's out here. I think they're going to set up something between her and Rousey, which nobody's going to be interested in.
So next is the Firefly Fun House. And the set was shown and the lighting turned red, and the television on the floor showed someone playing with a pair of Undertaker action figures. They cut to Bray Wyatt in a production room watching the footage of himself, saying that the winner of Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley at Elimination Chamber should run. Wyatt laughed as he watched himself, and the footage aired of Lashley mentioning Wyatt on Raw. Wyatt and one of his puppets were on a news set, and Wyatt told Uncle Howdy that it was time for the weather. I am all of us, Uncle Howdy said. Up next was a game show called Can You Keep a Secret? Wyatt was a host and wore a bad wig. Well, can you, Wyatt asked? A graphic listed, Can You Keep a Secret? Try some programming followed by Well, you can. The doorway to the Firefly Fun House was shown with a bunch of disturbing images playing, and Wyatt wore his black mask and said, if I told you a story, could you keep a secret? You want to hear what Powell's POV of this was?
Yeah.
Sure. Now can you get to the point? Bro, this Bray Wyatt stuff.
That's funny.
It's like, honestly, it's like a guy that like a schizophrenic guy that isn't taking his medication is like writing this and has no clue where it's going. Because this is
Did you see this, Joe?
I didn't see it. No, I was going to say though that the word, and we've said this before, but it's been basically confirmed, is that Bo Dallas has been portraying Uncle Howdy. Whether or not that's going to be the big reveal.
Let me just say this:
I don't know.
as you know, I like the Firefly Fun House, but every week they're losing me more and more. Okay, this was not that good, and there's like this voice of this screaming woman, while with an open doorway. And you can tell that's not Alexa Bliss. It doesn't sound like Nikki Cross, or might be some other girl, or I don't even know, bro. I'm so confused now. Bro, did you see? Let me just ask you this: did you in any way, shape, either you see what they did with Bray Wyatt on Monday?
No.
I'm gonna watch Raw tonight.
Okay. Do not tell me.
Okay.
All right. So next is Jimmy Uso and Solo were in the sitting in a couch. And Heyman's behind him, and Jimmy spoke about what he wanted to say to Jay, and Heyman informed Jimmy that Roman Reigns would appear next week. And Heyman said that if Jimmy couldn't handle Jay this week, then Roman would handle Jay for him next week. It's good stuff.
Yeah, continuation of the thread that they've been doing throughout the whole show and for weeks and months. Very well done.
Ray versus Karrion Kross is next with Scarlett. Kross needs to get in more offense. I'm watching bro. He's wrestling differently than he wrestled in NXT. It's like he's giving guys too much and selling too. I don't know. It's just like he needs to go back to his roots and look at the stuff that when he was dominating what he was doing in matches.
Yeah, because you said before he used a lot more impressive moves and dominant moves, and
that doesn't really do that much anymore. But he was going over, so he gave Ray a lot, and he was just fine. But at the end, Dom came out from under the ropes when they were doing the 619. And Dom slid from under the ropes and caught Ray's legs when he tried to do the 619 and pulled him out of the ring, which is a good spot. But the spot worked because Scarlett was on the apron, on the ropes. And when Dom hit the rope, she flipped into the ring, which distracted the referee, which is why Dom could do that spot without the referee seeing it. So it was very cleverly – they covered all their tracks there. So the referee didn't get buried, unlike the other company that we know of that the ref constantly gets buried. But he slides back in the ring and Kross blasts him from behind and and chokes him out. So after the match, Dom entered the ring and continued to taunt his father by shoving him and daring him asking Ray to hit him. Ray fired up, went face to face with Dom while cocking his fist, and Dom dared him to do it, and the crowd chanted for Ray to do it. But Ray kept his cool and said he couldn't do it because Dom's his son, and Ray left the ring without any physicality. What do you think of this?
Yeah, very well done. Good match. Great timing on grabbing him on the 619. Kross got the win, but the most important thing is the continuation of Dom and Ray and the aftermath. The aftermath was fire, bro. People were just dying for him to hit him. Yeah, and when he does, that place is going to come unglued.
Exactly. I was going to say the first time he lets go and hauls off and hits him is going to be unbelievable.
No, but you should have seen the tension in this match when he was threatening to hit him. The people were like, hit him, hit. They wanted to see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something.
Way to milk it.
Let me tell you something. The WWE has done a great, and Dom has done, and Ray has done a great job. Dom was a very, you could make the point that, he's Rey Mysterio's son and didn't have to pay his dues like others did to break in the business, right?
Right.
Because he got in and they just started basically using him right away before he was even really trained well.
Right.
They were using him on TV while they were training him, right? And Dom got a lot of heat from the internet community because he wasn't the best worker. He was, because he was just starting. He wasn't working in front of people, right? And remember we were talking about wow, he's like the first guy in wrestling that got put on TV before he ever worked in front of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. Like literally, like everybody that trains to wrestle, you eventually go and you work in front of a crowd, right? And everybody, like every indie person, says but this was like the first guy that's ever didn't have to do or didn't do that. So then all of a sudden, he was getting all this heat from the fans, oh, Dom can't work, he's stuff, all this. Then he gets in front of the crowd, and bro, the guy's like one of the biggest heels in the business now, which just shows you there's things that wrestlers that you need to do to become a compelling character. And Dom figured all this stuff out very quickly. It's like, dude, they don't like you. Okay, cool. Let's turn the guy heel, and let's just let him act like a punk.
Yeah.
Which is what he does, and he does it very well. And he sells, and he sells a lot. So you like it when he's getting his ass kicked and everything. So you like it when he's, you don't like it when he's getting heat, and you like it when he gets his ass kicked. And is just doing a great job. It's like to where the point he's literally one of the top 3 heels in the company right now. He's one of the top 3 heels on TV.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, like literally when you watch tag matches, the second he tags in, the fans start booing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard to do these days, right, Konnan?
Yeah, I'm very proud of him, bro.
If he's not hitting a home run every time he's out there, he's at least hitting a triple. And those vignettes and
he's
stuff.
the type of guy, like, how like they push Gargano and LeRae because they, this happens a lot in booking places. Like they'll like a wrestler because he's on time, he's professional, he's easy to deal with. And they're like, let's reward the guy, which I'm not against. But I think that because Dominic is such a, and you know him very well, Disco, he's such a beautiful kid. And he gets along with everybody and he's respectful, because he learned that from Ray. They're like, let's help this guy. He doesn't give any problems. He's on time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's running with it.
There's a good dynamic for the fans, which is like basically, if you look at like society today, it's a very good dynamic with the fans because you have your established vets, which are very well respected in this company, like Edge, Ray, and stuff. They get a good pop. They get the respect pop from the crowd. And you got these kind of like younger punks, like Austin Theory, Dominic, and stuff. And it's a good like mixture to like, because the fans still like the veteran guys because they're the ones that still draw. And you're mixing them in with like the new guys, and it's like creating a good dynamic of heat and a good heel baby face dynamic, which you need.
And plus, like when you're in a car and you're traveling and you're exchanging ideas, because Dom told me he travels a lot with Austin Theory.
Right.
So
they were together. They came to my club together. It was Austin Theory, Dom, Riddle, and the Usos. I guess that's a clique.
What happened to Riddle?
He got drug rehab.
Yeah, I think he had to go back. I'm not sure.
For what? For marijuana?
No.
There was a lot of like
shit.
He was dating porn stars, and there was like
he was probably going crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Well, he was kind of semi-freshly divorced too,
Right. It was like, it was a mess. So next is the main event angle, and Jimmy Uso makes his entrance in his non-wrestling attire. Jimmy looked in the camera and said he knew Jay was watching somewhere. Jimmy said he knew Jay was hurting. When Jay hurts, he hurts. And Jimmy said he would really be there for Jay, just as he needed Jay to be there for him at this time. And Jimmy said people claim there are cracks in the bloodline. Jimmy said they have a Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens problem, and Jimmy said he knew Jay had issues with Roman, but I can't do this on my own, Jimmy said. Sammy showed up in the crowd with his hood over his head, and Sammy hopped the barricade under the ring as Jimmy finished speaking. Sammy told Jimmy that he wasn't there to fight. He said Jimmy had his back in the bloodline since day one. And Sammy said Jimmy saw value in him from day one and made him an honorary use. Sammy said that when things went south at the Rumble, Jimmy didn't think twice and took him down with zero hesitation. And Sammy said that hurt. A Sammy chant broke out while Zayn and Jimmy looked at one another. Jimmy called Zayn selfish and told him that he was the one who made the choice. You stepped on me and you stepped on Jay, Jimmy said, and Jimmy added that the family doesn't betray you. Sammy said family doesn't make you test your loyalty every week or make you jump through hoops to prove something, like Reigns manipulated him for years. Then Jay Uso showed up, was standing in the crowd up in the not the rafters, but the top of the first level steps. And Sammy told Jay that he doesn't have to go down with the ship. Sammy turned and looked at Jay, or Sammy told Jimmy he doesn't have to go down with the ship, and he turned and looked at Jay. And Jimmy blindsided Zayn and worked him over, embarrassed that Zayn walked into a trap. Then Jay started walking to the ring, and Jimmy turned and yelled out to Jay, and Zayn recovered and hit Jimmy with a haluva kick. Then Jay stepped and stood on the fan side of the barricade, and Solo headed the ring, and Zayn saw Solo coming and made his exit. And Sammy and Jay made eye contact at ringside, and Sammy hopped over the barricade away from Jay, and Cole reminded viewers that Roman Reigns would appear on next week's show. If I was not, I'll be honest. If my idea of Jimmy and Sammy versus Solo or Jay and Sammy versus Solo and Jimmy was a possibility, this would be a logical step that you would have taken to get to that point. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
I don't think they've decided yet on if it's like if it's Kevin Owens and Sammy against the Usos. What do you think? Do you think that's a solid decision that they've made?
I don't know, but they could be tweaking it and figuring it out week by week, and then but I don't.
Because honestly, I keep saying, this story is all about the bloodline, and like Owens is like you could throw him in here, but it's like it seems like you're throwing an outsider into the storyline because this is the story of all these guys together have been the story for like months, for like a whole year.
Yeah.
which is why I think my idea works better. And I saw somebody on Twitter like complain, like, "What are you crazy? The Usos have been champions for so long, and then now they're just going to have to like vacate the titles and have." I'm like, yeah. That's how powerful this family squabble is, that they literally had to vacate the titles after like the longest reign ever, and now the family is fighting over who's going to be the champions. Which is I think that's a better story. That is more compelling television. So,
plus, there's a lot of shades of gray in that story too. I mean, right now, if they did Owens and Zayn versus the Usos aren't necessarily clear-cut heels either. I mean, unless they do something in the next few weeks to cement that.
Right. And
well,
Paul,
they ain't gonna be baby faces against Kevin Owens and Zayn.
And let's be honest. Look at the history of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Why are Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn like best buddies all of a sudden? Like their whole story of their career has been Kevin Owens has always turned on Sami for 15 years.
Yeah.
So why would if they're together? To me, the story is Kevin turns on them again too. Like, because why would Sami be so dumb to Sammy's probably looking at Jay as like a better friend than Kevin Owens.
Yeah,
that's the great thing in the story is Kevin is now mad at Sami because he let him get beat up.
Yeah, and he turned on him at the
because he said I didn't do it for you, I did it for your family, so your family didn't have to watch me again.
That was great.
It's good stuff, but it's like and Sami should be like, yeah, you're right. Why are you? You would never do anything for me.
All right,
you would turn your back on me.
Let me finish this so we can get the talks because I got to get out of here in like 30 minutes.
We have Billy. So
okay, what I did like was that Jey Uso appeared. They first got on the mic. They were angry. They were good promos back and forth with good intensity. But I liked when Jey Uso appeared and him and Zayn gave that look to each other and the camera caught it just perfectly. And you're wondering, okay, what is Jey going to do? Whose side is he on? You know what I'm saying? Which is great.
Right.
And obviously then Solo Sakoa came out and chased Zayn off before we could find out where Jay's allegiances stood, which I thought was continued great storytelling.
Right. All right. That's been our SmackDown review.